we use the word knowledge all the time, but have you ever, like, really thought about what it means to actually know something?
It's one of those things, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. You use it.
Totally.
You don't think about it.
Right. So for this deep dive, we're taking a look at Jennifer Nagel's book, Knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way,
Yeah.
this has a pretty impressive 3.87 rating on Goodreads from over 850 ratings.
Wow.
So we know we're in for a treat.
That's great.
Our mission is to kind of extract the most fascinating and useful points from this book.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that you can walk away thinking about knowledge in a whole new way.
I think that's a great mission.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating is how this seemingly simple idea of knowledge has puzzled philosophers for centuries.
Right.
There's no easy answer.
I know.
Which makes it all the more intriguing.
So let's start with the classic definition.
Okay.
Knowledge is justified true belief.
Right.
And if we think of it like a detective solving a case,
Yeah.
it means you need evidence.
Evidence, not just a hunch.
Not just a hunch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
You can't just walk in and be like,
I got a feeling.
I got a feeling.
Yeah.
But as straightforward as that sounds,
Yeah.
there are some fascinating wrinkles that we call the Gettier problem.
Yes. The Gettier problem.
And this shows how you can have a belief that is both true and justified,
Right.
yet it still feels like luck, not genuine knowledge.
Yeah, it's like you got the right answer, but
But not for the right reasons.
you didn't really know.
But you didn't earn it.
Right.
Can you give us an example?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Imagine you are walking down the street and you see a clock that says it is 2:00 p.m.
Okay.
You form the belief that it's 2:00 p.m.
Right.
And you have a good reason to believe that clocks are generally reliable.
They are.
Right.
Yeah.
But what you don't know is that the clock is actually broken.
Oh.
However, by pure coincidence,
Mm-hmm.
it happens to be 2:00 p.m.
What?
So you have a justified true belief, but
Yeah.
does it really feel like you genuinely know it?
It does feel different.
It does. It does, because
No.
it was just by chance.
It's like winning the lottery because you dreamt the numbers, but the winning ticket was actually a gift that you received.
Yeah.
You won, but you didn't know you would.
You didn't.
It makes you wonder if there's something more to knowledge
Yeah.
than just having a justified true belief.
Exactly.
So the Gettier problem
To get your
throws a
curl.
wrench into this seemingly
Yeah.
simple definition.
Right.
And then it raises all these questions
Yeah.
about what else might be needed for us to truly claim we know something.
Exactly.
So if that classic definition is shaky,
Right.
how do we even begin to build reliable knowledge?
Well, there are several theories that philosophers have put forward to answer that question.
Okay.
Some advocate for what's called foundationalism,
Foundationalism,
where knowledge is built like a pyramid.
like a pyramid.
Certain beliefs are considered so solid
Oh.
and self-evident that they form the foundation and all other knowledge rests upon them,
Okay, so it's like
like the base of the pyramid.
the base of the pyramid.
Yeah,
It's an intuitive idea
it is.
because there have to be some things that we just know without question,
Yeah.
like 2 + 2 = 4.
Exactly. And that's the appeal of foundationalism.
Right.
It feels very grounded.
Grounded.
Yeah. But are there really beliefs
Ooh.
that are completely unshakable?
Unshakable.
What if even seemingly obvious truths can be questioned?
Okay.
And that's where coherentism comes into play.
So coherentism offers like an alternative.
It does. It's a different way of looking at it.
Okay.
Instead of a pyramid.
Yeah.
Imagine a web.
But we-
Beliefs gain strength and justification through how well they connect and support each other.
Okay.
So it's more flexible than foundationalism.
More flexible.
But then the question becomes, could a whole web of interconnected beliefs be wrong if they aren't anchored to something outside of that web?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So according to coherentism,
Yeah.
I can strengthen a belief
Yes.
by making sure that it fits logically with my other beliefs.
Yes.
But I need to be mindful of whether those beliefs as a whole
Yeah.
are connected to reality in some way.
The reality, exactly.
Otherwise, I might just have this beautifully coherent yet completely wrong
Yeah.
understanding of the world,
Exactly.
which is scary.
It is a little bit scary.
Yeah.
And this brings us to a really important question
Ooh.
for you, the listener.
Okay.
Which approach resonates more with how you think about your own beliefs?
Ooh.
Do you lean towards those unshakable foundational truths?
Yeah.
Or do you see your beliefs as more of a web of interconnected ideas?
It makes you wonder if we can really know anything, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, all this talk about shaky foundations
Yeah.
and potentially flawed webs
Right.
makes me wonder if true knowledge is even possible.
That's the age-old challenge of skepticism.
Skepticism.
It's a question that has troubled philosophers for centuries.
For centuries.
And it's a perfectly valid concern.
So didn't Descartes
Yes.
explore these skeptical worries
He did.
centuries ago?
He did.
Like, what about this idea that we might be dreaming right now?
Yeah, his dream argument
The dream argument.
continues to fascinate and challenge us today.
Yeah.
If our senses can be so convincing in dreams, how do we truly distinguish waking life from a dream?
I mean, it's a valid question.
It is.
And then there's like the evil demon thought experiment,
Yes.
where like a deceitful being could be manipulating our perceptions.
Yeah.
Making us think we know things that aren't actually true.
Yeah, like a puppet master almost.
Yeah.
Controlling.
Pulling the strings.
Yes.
And so isn't that similar to the brain in a vat scenario, where we might just be brains hooked up to a computer simulation?
It is very similar.
It all makes you wonder about the nature of reality itself.
Absolutely.
I know.
These ideas might seem far-fetched, but they have surprising relevance to our modern world.
Ooh.
Think about the internet
Yeah.
and the constant barrage of information that we face.
The information overload.
The information overload.
Yeah.
How do we know it's real? Do we know it's real?
And what's fake news?
Fake news.
How can we be sure we're not being manipulated by algorithms or hidden agendas?
Yes, it's like a digital age version of Descartes' evil demon.
I mean, it can definitely feel that way sometimes.
It can.
So if we can't be absolutely certain about anything,
Right.
are we destined to just live in this perpetual state of doubt?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
Skepticism pushes us to examine our beliefs critically,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean we have to give up on the pursuit of knowledge altogether.
Okay.
There are other theories that attempt to address these concerns,
Yeah.
like reliabilism.
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 Okay, so reliabilism
Yes.
sounds more hopeful than skepticism.
It does sound a bit more hopeful.
So how does this approach help us build knowledge?
Well, reliabilism shifts the focus from internal justification
Okay.
or processes we use to form beliefs.
So it's less about how strongly I feel something is true
That's right.
and more about how I arrived at that belief in the first place.
Exactly.
Okay, so does that mean my personal reasons for believing something don't matter as much?
Well, that's a great question and one that philosophers are still debating.
Yeah.
Does the reliability of the process outweigh the individual's understanding and reasoning?
Right.
Nagel provides some thought-provoking examples in her book,
Okay.
Perception,
Memory.
Teaching, Memory.
Yeah. Logic.
Uh-huh.
These are generally considered reliable processes,
Right.
but are they always reliable?
That's true.
Yeah.
What about intuition or gut feelings?
That's a great question.
Are those reliable processes?
It depends.
Oh,
Some might argue that gut feelings are a form of subconscious pattern recognition,
interesting.
which could be considered a type of reliable process.
However, others would say they're too subjective and unpredictable to be truly reliable.
Right.
Ultimately, it's up to you to decide where you draw the line
Okay.
between intuition and a reliable process.
Where you place that boundary.
Exactly.
This is making me think about how all these philosophical ideas
Yeah,
can be applied to like my everyday life.
absolutely.
It's like they're giving me this framework
Yeah,
for thinking critically about the world and how I form my own beliefs.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this exploration of knowledge wouldn't be complete without considering the role of intellectual virtues.
Intellectual.
Yes, that's where virtue epistemology comes into play.
Virtue epistemology.
Virtue epistemology.
So virtue epistemology, it sounds like we're adding like an ethical dimension to the idea of knowledge.
In a way, yes. Virtue epistemology focuses on the character of the knower
Okay.
rather than just the beliefs themselves.
Okay.
It suggests that what kind of thinker you are matters just as much as what you know.
So instead of just aiming to be right,
Yeah.
we should also focus on cultivating those intellectual qualities
Yes.
that make us better thinkers.
Precisely. Think of intellectual virtues like open-mindedness,
Open-minded.
intellectual courage, humility,
Okay.
and curiosity. These are the traits that can truly make you a better knower.
I can see how those qualities would be essential for anyone who wants to pursue knowledge.
Yeah.
Like being willing to change your mind when presented with a new evidence, for example.
Precisely.
Or having the courage to question your own assumptions.
Yes.
I'm starting to see how personal growth ties into the pursuit of knowledge.
That's a key insight. And Nagel provides a compelling example in her book. She talks about a scientist who persists in their research despite facing setbacks and challenges.
Okay.
It's their intellectual virtues, their dedication and perseverance that ultimately lead them to a breakthrough.
It's a good reminder that the path to knowledge isn't always easy.
Right.
It takes real grit and determination to get to the truth. It makes me think about my own field
Yeah.
and the challenges I face.
Yeah.
What intellectual virtues do I need to work on to become a more effective thinker and problem solver?
That's a great question to reflect on.
Yeah.
We all have our own intellectual strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
Identifying those areas where we can improve as thinkers is a crucial step in our personal journey toward knowledge.
We've covered so much ground already.
I know, right?
Foundationalism,
Yes.
coherentism, skepticism,
Yeah,
reliabilism,
right.
and now virtue epistemology.
It's a lot.
Is there anything else
There is.
that we should consider
Yeah.
when trying to understand knowledge?
There's one more crucial aspect we haven't touched on yet.
Okay.
And it's the role of context.
Context.
Yeah. Context.
You mean like the specific circumstances in which we're trying to know something?
Exactly. Contextualism argues that the standards for knowledge can change depending on the situation. For instance, if you're at a bar with friends and you say, I know my team will win,
Okay.
the bar for knowledge is relatively low.
Okay.
But if you're about to bet your life savings on that same game,
Yeah.
the stakes are much higher.
Uh-huh.
And you'd need much stronger justification to claim, the outcome.
It makes sense when you put it that way.
Yeah.
The context really does seem to influence how much certainty we demand
Yes.
before we're willing to say we know something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's also a fascinating concept known as the lottery paradox.
Okay.
It highlights how context shapes our everyday use of the word know.
Okay.
It seems strange to say, you'll lose the lottery,
Right.
even though the odds are overwhelmingly against you.
Right.
Yet we say things like that all the time.
We do.
Casual conversation.
We say, I know I'm going to lose.
Right.
Yeah.
But we still buy the ticket.
Yeah. And it's like the context of those everyday conversations doesn't demand the same level of certainty as, say, like a scientific experiment.
Exactly.
So is contextualism saying that we have enough knowledge to function in daily life?
Yes.
But philosophy forces us to question things on a much deeper level.
That's a great way to put it. It's like philosophy is holding a magnifying glass
Yeah.
to the idea of knowledge,
Okay.
revealing all the complexities and nuances we
Yeah.
might otherwise overlook.
So far, we've explored different approaches to justifying beliefs.
Right.
The challenges of skepticism.
Yes.
The importance of intellectual virtues.
Uh-huh.
And the role of context
Yes.
in shaping knowledge.
Right.
But isn't there a social dimension to knowledge as well?
Absolutely.
Like, we don't figure everything out on our own, do we?
That's a crucial point, and one that Nagel emphasizes in her book.
Okay.
We rely on others for a vast amount of what we know.
Right.
Think about history, science, news. We're constantly absorbing information from others.
It's true. I certainly didn't discover calculus on my own.
Exactly.
But that brings up the question of trust.
Yes.
How do we know who to believe?
Yeah.
How do we navigate this sea of information and decide what to accept as knowledge?
That's the key challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about blind faith,
Okay.
but about developing a discerning approach
Okay.
to evaluating information.
So how do we do that?
Well, Nagel talks about how we calibrate trust.
Calibrate trust.
Yes, weighing factors like the person's expertise,
Their expertise.
their track record,
Okay.
whether their claims align with other sources we trust.
So it's a constant process
It is.
of assessing reliability.
Yes, like a continuous process.
It sounds similar to how we evaluate sources online,
Exactly.
like checking for credibility, biases, that sort of thing.
Right.
We're constantly bombarded with information
Yeah.
from various sources, and we have to make judgments about what's trustworthy.
All the time.
Yeah.
This social dimension of knowledge extends even further when we consider the idea of epistemic communities.
Epistemic community.
Epistemic communities.
Can you elaborate on that concept?
Imagine groups of experts,
Okay.
scientists, historians, doctors,
Okay.
who have devoted their lives to a particular field of knowledge. We rely on these communities a great deal for our understanding of the world.
Right.
Their research, their
Yeah.
collective expertise
Yeah.
forms the basis for much of what we consider to be knowledge.
But wouldn't that create a potential problem?
It could.
What if we become too reliant on these experts and stop thinking critically for ourselves.
That's the danger.
How do we balance trust in expert communities with maintaining a healthy sense of skepticism?
That's a crucial question, and Nagel grapples with this very issue. It's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
We need to respect the expertise of these communities
while
also recognizing that they aren't infallible. Sometimes challenging the consensus can lead to groundbreaking discoveries and advancements in knowledge.
So it comes back to those intellectual virtues we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Humility, open-mindedness, intellectual courage. Knowing when to trust and when to question is essential.
Absolutely. It's about being an active participant in the process of knowledge creation, rather than just a passive recipient of information. And that's what makes this whole discussion so fascinating. Knowledge isn't static. It's constantly evolving through our interactions with the world and each other.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
We've gone from foundationalism to coherentism. Wrestled with skepticism. Explored the importance of intellectual virtues. And delved into the complexities of context and social knowledge.
That's a lot.
I'm starting to see how knowledge is much more than just a collection of facts. It's a dynamic and multifaceted process.
You've captured it perfectly. It's a journey of exploration and critical thinking. A journey we all undertake as we strive to understand the world around us.
Makes you wonder if we've only scratched the surface of what it means to know something. We've uncovered so much
complexity
already.
I think it highlights how much our understanding of knowledge is intertwined with our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
And with all these advancements we're seeing in technology, especially with AI. It brings up some really interesting questions.
It does.
So we talked earlier about like reliable processes as one way of thinking about knowledge. But if a machine can outperform us in terms of processing information and like arriving at accurate conclusions, does that mean it truly knows those things?
That is a great question.
In the same way that we do.
That's a question that philosophers are actively grappling with.
I bet.
If knowledge requires more than just reliable processes. If it involves things like understanding and justification.
And perhaps even consciousness, then where does that leave AI?
Could a machine ever possess those qualities? And if so, what would that even mean for our understanding of knowledge itself?
Exactly.
I know.
Big questions.
This makes you think about what sets human knowledge apart.
It does.
And if we go back to the idea of contextualism, where the standards for knowledge can shift depending on the situation, does that mean that truth itself becomes more fluid?
That's a fascinating question.
What happens to our understanding of facts and reality when those standards change?
It takes us to the heart of some really long-standing debates in philosophy. If what we consider knowledge is so influenced by context, does that make truth relative? Or are there some fundamental truths that remain constant regardless of the situation?
It seems like we've stumbled upon another deep dive waiting to happen.
Another one.
I know.
Always more to explore.
Always more.
But I think it highlights how important it is to keep questioning. To keep exploring these ideas.
I agree.
We might not always arrive at definitive answers. But the process of inquiry itself is valuable.
I couldn't agree more. The goal isn't necessarily to have all the answers. It's to cultivate that spirit of curiosity. That desire to understand and to engage in thoughtful discussions like this one.
We've barely scratched the surface today.
We have.
But hopefully we've given you some new lenses through which to view the concept of knowledge.
I hope so.
We've explored different theories of justification. Wrestled with skepticism.
We did.
Examined the role of intellectual virtues. And even delved into the social and contextual dimensions of knowing.
And if this conversation has sparked your own curiosity, I highly encourage you to check out Jennifer Nagel's book,
Knowledge.
It's a wonderfully engaging and thought-provoking exploration of these ideas and so much more.
It might even inspire you to embark on your own philosophical journey.
There you go.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.